Hello, hello. I'm back. This is Theresa. Welcome to 11th Hour Shaman's Cup of Tea podcast / video blog. This is the show where we discuss everything shamanism and spiritual and things that are physically tangible, but with a spiritual twist, because I genuinely believe you can heal anything you want to when you partner with spirit, plants, and purpose. When I say spirit, I mean God, source, universe, goddess, angels, guides, plant spirits, all of the high vibe, invisible, compassionate helpers we have with us all the time, and those that we can call on to come to us immediately. Some of them just show up whether we ask or not. Many times this has happened for me, but I am your hostess, Theresa Gutierrez, a shamanic practitioner and the owner of 11th Hour Shaman. And I invite you to nestle in with your favorite cup of tea and soak in the wild nourishment of today's episode. Today, we are talking about a dream I had this year, 2024, on February 2nd, and I can't believe I haven't shared it with you yet. What in the world has taken me so long? Only spirit knows, but here I am. I think this one is really important because we're talking about herbalism and the spirit of herbs. This is such good stuff. Very applicable to our lives for the physical and mental, emotional, and spiritual health. So on February 2nd at 2:30 in the morning, I woke up from this really wild dream. It was very short, but it kind of takes a minute to say what happened. So in the dream, I'm reading a book and I'm suggested to read a book, like somebody in the dream is suggesting to me that I read a book called Seven Herbs. So I see a picture of this book. It says whoever's recommending this book to me is saying Matthew Wood, Seven Herbs. And it was repeated to me so that I would remember to read the book. And then I woke up. That was it. That was the dream. And I woke up at 2:30 in the morning and I'm like, what in the world just happened? I just don't even know. So I, got up, used the restroom, tried to go back to sleep, and I can't go back to sleep. I feel so strongly that spirit is trying to get a message through to me, and I needed to look it up because I couldn't sleep. So instead of going to like Google or DuckDuckGo, I decided to go to Amazon because the dream said it was a book. I didn't know if it was a real thing, which is why I'm looking it up, right? So I go into Amazon and I search Matthew Wood and the number 7 because I thought it said 7 herbs, but I wasn't 100% sure. And I thought, this is really strange. I know spirit has sent me dreams that are definitely true before. So I'm just going to go with it and see what happens. Well, the very first thing that pops up with that in the search, Matthew Wood and the digit 7, is a picture of a book cover, green background. Across the top, it says Matthew Wood. I didn't even know that was a person, like a real person in this world. He is. Okay, so right under that, there's this line, and then it says in bold letters, 7 herbs, plants as teachers. And there's a beautiful old picture from, I'm guessing, whenever they invented cameras. I'm not entirely sure. But it's a Native American man in his native clothing with his bow and arrow, and he's got this amazing, wise stature, energy, just grounded, calm, and wise. And my jaw hit the floor when I saw that this was a real book. I'm like, what? I have to buy it. So I didn't even read anything else. I just bought it immediately. And I was super excited to get it. And eventually I got it, probably in a day or two. And it turns out this book is about the spirit of, or the, yes, the spirit of seven specific herbs, but it was all about our human journey through consciousness in this life, our personal growth path, in a sense. And you would think it's kind of one step, next step, next step, and it can be that, but it's also like, yes, it's a progression and growth and healing and consciousness and expansion, but it's also like we can go back and forth and revisit these different energies in our consciousness to heal at a new level. So it could be progressive one by one, but it also is around the track again. Here we go. And it's always a good thing. But one of the really interesting things I found in reading it is he's talking about the symbolism that is actually quite true for us. So the symbolism is that the plants in their environment in the wilderness, they have to deal with a lot of obstacles and overcome a lot of challenges in order to go from a seed in the dark earth, planted and growing and thriving all the way through its own reproductive cycles. And as you know, some plants, you know, live forever, basically, but others die every year and they have to be replanted. But the point is, they have overcome very specific obstacles that are quite symbolic to our own struggles in life, our own challenges and obstacles in life. And so they call this the doctrine of signatures, and it's based on how a plant looks, and it's also based on their challenges in their environment and what they've overcome. And it's really amazing. And okay, so the next thing that happened, right? I'm reading this book, I'm reading all about the seven herbs, and so many of them are relatable. I could see myself in so many different layers, so many different plants, and the descriptions of our path in consciousness and healing. And I didn't know which one to start with, but I knew I've got this book for a reason, right? Spirit sent it to me for a reason. And so I was deciding, maybe I'll just start with the first one and then I'll just go through it and see what happens one after the other. Well, when I made that decision, before I actually purchased any of the herbal essences, I had another dream to tell me which herb I was meant to start with. Thank you, Spirit, because I couldn't be more grateful. It worked wonders in me. So, this other dream happened. Let me see. I got my book out. I have so many journals. This dream happened on February 8th, so 6 days later. And I dreamt about Black Cohosh. Now, Black Cohosh in this book helps us in a few different ways. One of those ways is Cohosh helps us put things in order. And this is really important, especially for someone like me, an entrepreneur who's very flowy. Not a lot of structure going on over here. And Black Cohosh really helped me to get things more set in order. But here's what I think is so fascinating. The dream that I had to know to take Black Cohosh was a message about not just my life and the order of my life, but about this issue that I've had in my left hip because, well, for many reasons. I think it's for many reasons. Number one, I was born with a clubbed foot. And luckily, in this modern day, my parents had a doctor fix my clubbed foot so that I could walk and run like all the other kids. So lucky me, at least I could run and play, and I was actually quite athletic. But my point is, I was born with a clubbed foot, and what I think they didn't figure out back then was that I actually was born with something wrong with my hip as well. It's always made this really bizarre pop. It doesn't sound like a pop. It's like a deep, dull pop, but it's not like when your knees or knuckles crack. It's not a high pitch. And it's like a ligament or tendon is slipping over the hip joint unless I angle it a specific way. It's such a weird thing, and it does not hurt, but it's always been this weird thing. But then when I had my first baby, that hip felt like it was being ground up in like a mortar and pestle. It felt like my bone was being ground down. It was so painful, just that hip joint. And ever since then, I had three more babies after that. It will just lock up and like not the joint, not the bones, but the ligaments or tendons all around it. They'll just lock up and freeze, and then I can't move because it hurts too much. And then on top of that, over time, I also had an accident, a slip and fall. I flew into the air, both feet. I flew into the air and I landed on my left hip. And so sometimes my SI joint will just pop out. And it's this very interesting thing I have going on with it. And in this dream, believe it or not, we're back to the dream. with the black Cohosh, and this cat was in this dream, and in the dream I was told, a black Cohosh would set that into place naturally for you, because in the dream someone was trying to force it and it was really awful and painful, and all this stuff was happening in the dream. No need to discuss that part right now, but the dream message, like, I swear guides are in my dreams talking to me and they said, Black Cohosh would just put that right into place naturally. I woke up like, huh, all right, well, I guess that's where we're starting. So I started taking Black Cohosh herbal essence. It's not the same as taking a high dose of tincture or capsules of the herb. Herbal essence is when you have a tincture, and that's some strong medicine, and you take 1 drop of that tincture and you put it in 1 ounce of pure water. That's the herbal essence. Then you take the herbal essence and you take 4 drops under the tongue as often as you feel like you need to. You want to sit with it under your tongue and meditate on the plant for at least a minute if possible. Now, one of the things I think is really awesome about this black cohosh from this book, Seven Herbs, is that black cohosh is known to help us put things in order, including our spine and our skeletons. So I thought that was super cool, and that spoke to this thing I had going on with my hip. But it also helps us set our household in order. It helps us set our cycles in order. It helps us set our protocols in order for those of us that are healers or entrepreneurs, practitioners of some sort. So it helps us get all these different aspects of life into order, and in the body, helping the body get into order. We want coherence, heart-brain coherence, and proper spinal alignment. And this black cohosh was the plant for me to help me do this. One of the other things I thought was really interesting about this beautiful plant, if you have ever seen black cohosh growing in the wild, it is absolutely gorgeous, and I can see why its nickname is the fairy candle because it's like it has these beautiful, deep black roots that are intertwined. And I think of it not in a messy, bad way, like when we get all enmeshed with our emotions and they're negative, but I think of it like when we interlace our fingers and we have a stronger grip because of it. And I think that Black Cohosh can actually disentangle our negative thoughts and feelings. Like, let's say somebody's dealing with grief, but they also have anger. I was someone that was told in a dream that I have angry grief. So I had to untangle, I had to disentangle this enmeshment I had with grief and the anger. They needed to be sorted and separated. It was a very important process. Grief ritual was great for that. But what I was being shown in this dream is that Black Cohosh can also help really support the strength of our own roots and feeling grounded and strong. And so that's the roots for me. And I could see that this fairy candle Black Cohosh looks like these big fluffy hips, like wearing a tutu or something. And then this long, tall, straight stem or shoot straight up, just like our spines coming out of the pelvic area, just straight up spine. And then it turns into this long, white, flowery triangle that to me immediately reminded me of the pineal gland. What in the world? This plant is magical. It's so beautiful. And I felt like it was exactly for me. And the flowers look like little white stars to me, and they're pointing to the heavens. And it just reminded me to open up that crown and connect with the divine. So that's how I really connected with Black Cohosh. And one of the other messages or supports, guidance from the Black Cohosh was this message, this concept. It's a deep, deep concept of defenselessness. It's not about being disempowered. It's not about being powerless in that sort of defenselessness. It's like it creates this, it's actually a beautiful, humble experience, this feeling of being defenseless. I have no argument here. I just am very solid in who I am, and I'm totally fine with who you are, kind of vibe. But for those of you who are into human design and or the Gene Keys, the Gene Keys is a book about embracing your higher purpose by Richard Rudd, and human design is a different system created by Ra, but a lot of us use them intertwined. So when I read about Black Cohosh and this concept that we can apply to our lives, this concept of defenselessness, it immediately made me think of my gene key. It's my design sun. So we have a design side, the DNA design side of our human design, our gene keys, and then we also have the personality side. So my design sun is 6, the path to peace. And in the Siddhi, which is the enlightenment stage or awakened state, Richard Rudd talks about this concept of defenselessness in the form of a story. So I'm going to share the story. He calls it a famous story called The Empty Boat, told by the Chinese sage Chuang-Tzu. And this is on page 41 of The Gene Keys by Richard Rudd. One day, an old man was crossing a river in his boat when he mistakenly collided with another boat. The man in the second boat began shouting at the old man, cursing him. However, to the second man's dismay, the old man did not react in any way whatsoever, but just stared at him impassively. The old man was an enlightened being who had transcended all sense of his own individuality. For him, there was no one in his boat to be shouted at. Thus, there was no one to defend, and therefore, no reaction within his being. And that's the end of the story. So some people are enlightened and fully awakened, and they stay in this Siddhic state. I am not one of those people. I have experienced moments of enlightenment or moments of pure awareness, moments of awe and awakening. One of those times was born from a really challenging fear that I had about one of my children. And this was probably 10 years ago. And when I received that gift of awakening around that child and that topic, that lasted for days. And I wish it would have stayed, but it didn't. But I do have the memory and the memory of the physical sensations of what that kind of peace and joy and love feels like. And I can call on that at any time. So I encourage you to do the same if you've had these moments of inexplicable peace. Practice re-feeling that regularly, like daily if you can. So I just wanted to mention, I feel like there's maybe 3 stages. I could be totally wrong, but 3 stages to this identity thing. And number one is we all have an identity. And because we all have an identity, a sense of self, we tend to take things personally. And it takes a lot of practice to learn not to take things so personally and get offended or hurt or, wounded by others' words and actions. We tend to take them personally. And I have like a million examples I could share. The only one coming to my mind right now is from forever ago. So a long time ago, I used to think that somebody's specific behavior meant that he did not love me. And I would take it personally, I guess you would say. And eventually I realized it actually had nothing to do with me at all. It was 100% about that person's ability to love in general. Like we all have an ability to love, and for each of us it varies in degrees in how much we can love, like feel the feeling of love and then express a feeling of love. And when that feeling towards the self is not present, if we do not love, like genuinely love and care for our own existence, our own selves, if we're caring about too much guilt or shame or pain, feeling like we're not good enough, it is extremely difficult to have an open heart and love others. And I was taking that personally and realized later that it really had nothing to do with me. And that's just one example of an identity that takes something personally. And I'm sure most of us do that. And it does take a lot of practice to figure out how not to take it personally, but also how to really own what you want and what you feel like you need, what you want to experience in this life. How do you want to experience your relationships? Because it matters. And if somebody doesn't have the capability or the desire to develop the capability, then you get to decide if that person is going to continue in a relationship with you. So anyway, that's one. We all have an identity. We tend to take things personally, and then it takes practice to not take it personally. And number two is we could see every person in our lives, every event in our lives symbolically as a mirror. And we could do the work of Byron Katie basically and turn it around. So if he's not loving me, how am I not loving me? It's one of the easiest turnarounds in the world. I could give you a big list. And one of those is allowing someone to treat me in a way that is undesirable. So that's one way of looking at the mirror. We could start to see how everything around us could possibly be a projection of an aspect of our human selves. I'm not talking about our soul and our pure awareness. I'm just talking about different aspects of the human self. We have lots of great things. We have lots of not so great things, but ultimately we are all doing the best that we can with what we have. And it is super important to give ourselves self-compassion and grace and self-loyalty and really honor the kind of experience we want to have for this lifetime and just enjoy it and go through all of it. But using the mirror is a very effective tool when practicing not to take things personally and choosing growth instead, personal growth instead. And then number three is where we get to the old man in the boat, is there is no identity, there is no separation, there's no need to get all in a huff about defending ourselves against someone who sees us in a certain way, like a careless old man that hit me in a boat, right? Like it doesn't matter. He can see me that way if he wants to, because I know that's not the truth of me and it's not the truth of him either in this moment, this acting out, because ultimately we are all, well, we're all one. And we all come from the same source of love and peace, the same sense of infinity. We're all connected, which of course brings me to that other dream I had of the Song of the Sun Bears when Source came to me in a dream. Just it was just like the descriptions of near-death experiencers when they feel the oneness, their connection to source, and they can see and feel God in all things. You could call it God or goddess, makes no difference to me, but in the dream, the name that came to me was source, and I know that it doesn't matter to spirit or source what we call it. But the dream showed me, and didn't just show me, but I felt it. I felt God and I felt the sun living inside of my heart. And I could see these beautiful golden threads like webs. And it was showing me and helping me feel absolutely everything in existence was all connected and all one with God, and that God was in all things. But the most important part of this dream was also to show me that God lives in our hearts. And if we can imagine the sun living in our hearts, then we can see the light and feel that warmth and that light and create that beautiful peace and loving feeling of warmth and light in our bodies. And this recalibrates us to connect with source, to connect with the divine, to feel and hear our angels and follow that guidance. But the other aspect of the dream was to really help us all feel genuinely grateful for our existence and everybody else's existence because of this miracle that God is inside all of us. And that dream was completely full of symbolism and unconditional love. It was absolutely beautiful. And to me, when I can tune into that, I can also tune into this concept of defenselessness. And that was my dream. That's a lot for this one episode, is it not? Black Cohosh as an herbal essence from this dream. 2 dreams. Oh my gosh. My life is full of dreams. And we can use herbs on a spiritual and mental emotional level, not just, for a physical ailment. They're there to support us on all levels of our existence. And if we meditate on them, they can give us messages. And that is my message for you today, is to use herbs in this new way, in this beautiful way, and to help us really connect with ourselves and our dreams and the plant kingdom that has so much to offer us. I would also like to add that if you would like some guidance on what would best support you, you can reach out to me and we can schedule a consult to work to see if you want to work with me one to one. And I do help people work through their own dreams. We do dream work coaching basically. And I can also do in person or long distance body work or angel intuitive guided energy work, where I get to read the body arc energy you hold, the storyline, and the energy in your body to help you heal physically, mentally, and emotionally, bringing what you need into awareness so that we can facilitate healing for you. Maybe Black Cohosh is calling to you to set everything in order like it did for me, but there are 6 other herbs from that book, and then I also use, other herbs when they come to me in a dream. So there's a lot to choose from. Obviously, the world is full of plants, and most are medicinal. Some definitely are not. But anyhow, that's my message for you today. This letting your dreams guide you, because it can lead to so much transformation, insight, and healing. I always only bring through messages from the angelic realm and the compassionate helping spirits that bring loving, healing, and wisdom. I don't go into the dark and ugh. I've had a few clients that I didn't know they had it until they were on the table, and obviously they're increasing their vibration. And as the vibration increased, then the negative attachment would like pop off and leave the house. But it wasn't anything creepy, weird, or scary. It was just, oh, okay, bye. I don't do that stuff, the creepy, weird, and scary. No, I work with the super high vibe angelic realms, all for the purpose of your healing and creating a life that you really, really love. We all deserve a beautiful life, and we are creators. We're here to create that for ourselves and all the people that we get to interact with, and the animals that we get to care for, and the plants that we get to grow and learn from. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is such an honor and honestly a blessing for you, because how symbolic is that you are tuning in. We all deserve that time to tune in to ourselves, and any messages that bring us love and hope and healing and guidance for our most amazing lives. You can book a free consult to work with me, and you can get an angel reading or angel guided healing sessions, long distance or in person. And I also do herbal consults, all of it. So feel free to reach out to me at Theresa at 11thhourshaman.com. I can't wait to hear from you. Until next time, let's be our realist selves and move towards our dreams, one guided step at a time. Big squishy hugs till then. Bye.